Hey everyone, welcome to the video. Now before we jump into the details, let's talk about what a network stack really is. In simplest terms, it's a combination of a firewall, switch, and a wireless access point. These three pieces that together form core of any reliable network. Now whether you're setting up a home lab, a small medium office, having a unified firewall, switch, and an AP solution simplifies the management, boosts your security, and keeps your network running smoothly. So in this demo, I'll show you how I've done exactly the same using Fortinet gear in this case, a FortiGate firewall, a FortiSwitch, and a FortiAP to create an efficient and a scalable network that is easy to maintain. Now, one is for the employees, one is for the guests, and to keep everything secure. And we'll also throw a NAS in the mix and create a couple of SSIDs. Now, stick around because by the end of this video, you'll have confidence to build a secure segmented network without feeling overwhelmed by the technical details. So let's jump right in.
Welcome to the demo. This is a simple integration of a Fortinet setup. What I'm using here is I'm using a FortiGate, which is 70F, a FortiSwitch 24 port 224E model, and then I'm using a FortiAP, which is 231F. Now, it doesn't matter, you could have used any models, but I'm just giving out what the models that I had. I'll show you how we can manage the wired and the wireless networks, different VLANs for employees, guests, and how even NAS fits into this whole picture. Before we start that, let's look into the physical connections and the overview. And if you're wondering what I'm using here to show you this diagram, I use this website free of cost. Pretty amazing. Documentation is equally, or I would say more important than your configuration. At one point, once you've configured your network, you will forget how you set it up. I would say is always pay close attention to where your documentation is. Physical connections. I have a FortiGate, as I said, the 70F. The interfaces A and B, which are under the FortiLink, we'll talk about that more. They are a bundle. They are running directly to my FortiSwitch on port 24 and 23. Now, the reason I've done that is because I want to make sure that I have a redundant connection here. In case one fails, I still have another one going. Now, on the FortiSwitch, I have port 1 that goes to my FortiAP. This way, the AP is powered on and it's managed to the switch, as the switch has PoE, which means power over Ethernet to power over the devices. I also have a NAS server. Basically, I just have a spare laptop that I've plugged into the firewall directly. Think of that as your file server where the employees will be saving their files. So the big picture is FortiGate is our main firewall router DHCP server. FortiSwitch handles all the VLANs for the wired AP traffic via FortiLink. The FortiAP provides SSIDs for employees, which is bridged, and one is for the guest, which is tunnel. And we'll talk about what bridged and tunnels are. NAS is on its own subnet connected directly to the FortiGate for easy access for the employees, but it's isolated. For example, a guest cannot be able to access the server because we have a policy in place. Let's get into the FortiGate. If you're using this FortiGate for the first time out of the box, this is what usually port 1 you can have directly connected to your laptop, and it also has a DHCP enabled, so you will get an IP address in the range of 192.168.1.subnet. If you're looking for documentation, this is the documentation for it. You can CLI using console, or you can connect, as I said to you, making sure that the laptop you're connected, in case it's not giving the DHCP server, you can make sure that your laptop is sitting on this subnet. Just to be safe, I gave my laptop 192.168.1.10 if I remember correctly, and then I made sure that the gateway is 192.168.1.99. The next thing I do is I go here, and you have to make sure that when you're trying to browse in, you have to make sure that you go to HTTPS, not just HTTP, because that would be disabled. But when you go to HTTPS, it will give you a certificate error. So go into advanced, accept it. By default, first time, just go admin and hit login. That's the time when it's going to ask you for an old password and to set up a new password. Old password, again, you leave it blank. New password, you set up whatever password you like to keep. And once you've done that, it will let you log in. So let's log in because I already did the setup. And I can say that I'm in the firewall. So the first thing I want to go is, once I'm in the firewall, is I want to go to the network and I need to start creating some interfaces. Now you'll notice that I've already created some interfaces here. So let me show you what I've done here. WAN 2 is where my internet is connected. And then A and B, as I mentioned to you, are the 40 links that are connected down to the switch. Number 5, port 5, which is internal, is connected to my NAS. And number 1 is my laptop, which is just managing it, right? So if I go back to my drawing, this is my laptop on port 1 managing it. Okay. Now, what do we need to do? So we need to create a VLAN 10 for employees. So I gave it a IP of 192.168.10.254. How do you do it? Is you just go click on interface and you start typing that information here. Now, in my case, as I said, it's already created, but this is where you'll do it. You'll go ahead and say employee, and you can put alias. I'm just gonna misspell it on purpose so it doesn't give me an error that you already have this created. Type, we'll leave it VLAN. Interface, you will make sure it's under the FortiLink because that's where it's going to be behind, right? And then after that, you set up a VLAN ID. In my case, I set up as 10. Let me go ahead and cancel this, and I'll actually show you how the setup is under FortiLink. You'll see this is what I have done. So if you go to employee, I say edit, you'll see the exact same page. I have created 192.168.10.254/ you can do 25555 the way it's written, or you can just write /24. It takes it both. You can create an object, so it creates an object for you. That's perfectly fine. I like to enable ping so that I can just test for things. And then I've also have a DHCP server. Firewall here runs as a DHCP server. Basically, it can hand out IPs to the people who are going to be connecting. I don't expect more than 50 employees, so that's why I have restricted my address range starting from 101 to 150 only. If you go down, only thing I've had on is device detection, rest all default, and I hit OK. The second one that I've created here actually under FortiLink is also a FortiAP, which is mainly, and the reason I have it is it's a VLAN 40. It's specifically for the APs to get an IP address. I've got it set up as 192.168.40.254 here, again /24. I made sure there is a DHCP on it as well. I really don't have that many APs, so I could have gone even with say 101 till 110. That would still be fine because as I said, I'm not expecting more than 10 APs anyways in this case. So I've just left it at default. I usually keep it at 50. For the NAS, this is under the FortiLink. The other thing I've done here is if you look at it is under the NAS, if you go edit, actually I've given it, I could have had a VLAN behind it, but instead what I did is I said, okay, I'm going to be connecting the NAS server directly, which is, as I said, laptop already. I can set it up as NAS. Role, I said, I'll give you LAN. And I've given you a subnet. And then 254 is a standard that I'm using /24 always. And the last IP, which is .254 is always assigned. And I created an object. Sure, I want to make sure that I can access all that. Device detection on and OK. So that's all really what I have there. One more thing I wanted to point out is I have not done any DHCP here. I don't have a DHCP server enabled because obviously if it's a server, you want to have it a static IP address. I have given my NAS server, which is this guy right. The server IP address that I have is 192.168.30.100. Obviously, it's going to be /24. Okay, that's the IP address I have on my NAS server here. That's pretty much what I've done at the FortiGate for now. The next thing I want to do is I want to show you this. We need to go to the Wi-Fi and switch controller. Sometimes you won't see this option. So in that's the case, then you go into system, you go into feature visibility, and this is where you make sure that the options are on or off, right? For example, the one that I was looking for here is going to be the switch controller and the Wi-Fi controller. If it's off, you will not see that option here. So again, some of the stuff is hidden. So just be aware of that in case you're looking for a certain tab that you can't find it. Just go here and enable that and it will show up. Okay, once you've done that, now let's go to our switch. We'll start with the FortiLink interface first. And as you notice that I have two members here, A and B. I have left it default. I haven't touched here everything. These two options, I have to turn this one off, the FortiLink split interface, because I'm connecting two same ports are connecting to the same switch. If you were doing it to two different switches, then you leave it on if you want. If you don't turn it off, the link won't come up. Just make sure that has been turned off. Okay, once you've done that, what will really happen is once you go to Forti managed switches, there will be a switch showed up. It will be great. You got to go right click and you have to authorize it. Right now I'm seeing deauthorize because I've already authorized it. Usually when you authorize it, it takes about a minute or two, give or take. And once it's on, you will see the switch right here. and then you can upgrade the switch, restart. I can factory reset the switch. I can restart the switch. I can LED blink. For example, if there is somebody in front of the switch and I want them to know this is the switch I want you to touch or plug something in, I can blink this and it will start blinking. So some basic features, but pretty neat, I would say, right? And then when you go to the VLANs, this is where you can create VLANs. Now, if you notice that since it was under the FortiLink, automatically the employee and the AP VLANs we created already showed up. So I didn't have to create them here. I do have the option to create something here if I like to, and this is the same setup that you're noticing that it looks exactly the same what we did when we were doing from the network and the interface part there, right? And then you have the FortiSwitch ports. As I said, this is where I have connected my AP. And since I have my phone connected, so saying, yeah, your S24 is connected, and this is the IP address it's getting, which is under the guest. And then this is the AP, and AP is getting for first IP. What you have to do here is you have to make sure that the native VLAN is set up to the AP. And then allowed VLANs, you make sure that all the other VLANs are allowed because there might be some other VLANs behind it. For example, VLAN 10 in this case. Okay, or if I could have just done just 10, that would have still worked. For now, I've just left it all, but if you want to make it more tight, you could have done that as well, right? This is also where you set up all the ports. You can change the native VLAN like this here. You can change what's allowed. Now, if you want to create, as I said, a new trunk group, you want to create then that's how you do it. You can create that. So, and if you really want to learn something, they also have the option of the online tutorial help and the video tutorials that walk you through all this. I find it pretty useful. Just keep that handy as well in case you want to. And then there are switch policies, which I'm not touching, the NAC policies, maybe for the future videos, but not for now. Okay. Now, once you've done this, now the next thing you want to take a look at is going to be basically your access points now, right? So here we're going to be setting up all the SSIDs. Let's go to FortiSwitch and say FortiAPs. Same thing. I'm turning this on right now, but I will not see the deauthorize. I'll see you have to authorize it first. Okay, so once I plug it in, the FortiGate detects it on VLAN 40. I authorize it, and it pops up as manage FortiAP. Now I'm going to create two SSIDs here. Okay, the way you do that is you go to SSIDs, you create a new SSIDs, you click on SSIDs, you name an SSID. For now, I'll just call it test. SOAR test. This one, it's up to you if you want to leave it tunneled or bridge. When you have a bridge, then that's where you have to kind of, don't add anything. So we'll call another Fortinet test here, right? Make sure it's broadcasting, right? What security mode? They have different options. So depending on which one would you like to pick. Obviously, the newer ones are the WPA3, SAE, transition, enterprise only ones. And you can also have the open option. There's also an open option, but that again has to be enabled from you don't see the open option here, right? That is another option. Some devices don't like it. That's why I think by default it's turned off. But if you go to feature visibility and you turn on that wireless open security here and you apply it, and then when you go back to your controller where you were creating an SSID, you will see that option as well now. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Once you've done that, as I said, pretty straightforward. I'll show you what I have done for my SSIDs. For the employee, let's edit it. All I have is I call it Forti employee. I don't want to spoil their marketing. They have everything Forti. I said, how about Forti employee there? So let's leave it that. Traffic mode, I'm saying it's AP, it's bridged. SSID Forti employee, I'm broadcasting it. WPA2 to keep it simple. And a password. And then optional VLAN ID, obviously because I have VLAN 10, I've made sure that I put that here. And that's about it, nothing else. No IP goes here, only VLAN that you've had if you're in the bridge mode. Now, let's look at the second option, which is the guest here. This is tunneled. It is, you have to define an IP address. I have given it a 20 here, right? And it creates an object here as well. Nothing special there. Yes, I want a DHCP server for this range, so the guest can get. So now I'm keeping it standard as you've seen in the other ones as well, starting from 101 to 150. net mask is /24, and that's pretty much it. And from a perspective of not device detection, yes, that's on. SID, yes, FortiGuest, WPA personal, I could have picked up a captive portal as well. And that's pretty much it. Now, one more thing you can do is, now there is an option, schedule, which is interesting, is if you want to create a new schedule. So let's say I want to say a one-time schedule. So I can say schedule for guest. So I can pick up a reoccurring schedule. Let's call it guest, because I don't want the guest SSID to be broadcasted all the time. So I'll say, okay, sure, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, only the times when I can expect a guest. Thursday, Friday, we don't take any guests. So depending on your business, right? I don't want to have it all day. I can say, I want to start from 9 and I want to stop at 5. And now I can pick up that if I like. Okay, so that was created, schedule. I can stop that and I can pick up guest schedule instead. So the other SSID has been broadcasted all the time, but this particular SSID can be only done at a certain time that you have. Now, if you're wondering what a bridge and a tunnel are, that's a good article right here. And I'll see if I can put that into the description as well. But here's a simple idea. The reason I have used bridged for my employees, because let's say I also have some employees who plug in directly into the FortiSwitch. When they plug in, I could have a access port with VLAN 20, so I get the same IP address for that employee, for example, 192.168.10.subnet. And when that same employee connects through the SSID on employee, he gets or she gets the exact same IP in the same subnet. So that's the main difference between bridge. So this is my employee scenario, and this is my guest scenario. And there are some more details. If you like to read this up, you could, and I will leave this in the description as well. What else do we need? Once you clear the SSID, next thing you want to make sure is your FortiAP profiles. Now, by default, there is going to be only one profile. You can create a new profile if you don't want to use that one, and then add those SSIDs into your profile. If you don't, then it will not broadcast anything. How do you do that? Is let's show you on this one. So you click on edit. Right now, these are just default, so we'll leave it there. All you need to do is in the SSID option, instead of tunnel and bridge, click on manual and manually add those SSIDs. They will show up here. You click on it and they get added. So in this case, if you notice that my radio 1, which is 2.4, has the 2 SSIDs, and also my radio 2, which is 5 gigahertz, also has 2 SSIDs. Now, here's another thing that you can do. Now, let's say if you only want your guest to be broadcasted on 2.4, what you can do is on the 5 gigahertz, you can take the guest out. Now, what that really means is I am saving the 5 gigahertz only for my employees because they are more critical to me. Guest is best effort. I'm just giving you access in case you want. This is another good practice from a wireless perspective. So you make sure you can set up that and you hit OK. And now if you notice, radio 2 is only giving employee, not the guest anymore, and the guest only exists on 2.4 gigahertz. Okay. And now at this point, you should be able to have it up and running. The only thing that is left from our perspective is we haven't set up the policies yet. So when you go to network policy and object firewall policies, I have created a couple here. I have created employee to the internet. When you are an employee, I want you to go to the internet. So incoming interface is employee, outgoing interface is the WAN 2. I'm saying everything is allowed, schedule. I'm not going to restrict you, all good. That's employee going out. Next thing I want you to do is for the guest now, let's look at the guest. So similarly, I have FortiGuest, I have WAN, so you're going out. Now, one more thing I need is don't forget that if you go back to the diagram, if an employee comes in, I want him to also access the NAS server here, right? So we want to make that happen. So for that, we create another option here. We say employee going to NAS, source will be employee address, which means only anybody who's into this subnet, which is 192.168.10.0/24, destination all, always, and that's about it. These are the only 3 firewall policies. And at the bottom, obviously, you have implicit deny, which means anything else that doesn't fall in this category is a deny. So guest trying to go to NAS, he doesn't meet any of the first three. Guess what? Denied, can't go. Okay, so now let's go ahead and test it. So I'm going to take the same laptop that I have, and I'm going to try and connect to Forti employee at this point. Now, when I do that, I can also go to status, and I can go to DHCP, and I can see if I'm able to connect. So if I go to, obviously I have my cell phone connected here as well, and I also have my laptop connected, which is this guy right here. And if you notice that it's connected on employee through AP, which is wireless, okay? And it's an employee. Now, just to make sure that that is what I have, how about we do this? So let's go ahead and do an IP config/all. And if you notice that, yes, that is me, 168.10.102, which matches right here. Now, once I've done that, another thing we want to do is I want to go ahead and actually see what IP am I getting from the wireless as well. And I can very easily do this by going to properties. And if you notice, same thing, DHCP, I'm connecting on 5 gigahertz, channel 36, which was exactly the same as what we saw before. This is the gateway on FortiGate, which we have created. Everything is pretty much what we expected to do. How about we do some testing now? Now, obviously, if I try going, the first thing I want to try and doing is, can I even access the internet? Well, yes, I can. Next thing I want to try is, let's see if I can go ahead and actually, as an employee, access the NAS server. And yes, I can. So again, from an employee perspective, you've made these rules that he's able to go ahead and use the internet and also able to access the NAS. Now, if I look at the guest, try doing the same thing, I will be able to go to the internet, but I will not be able to go to the NAS server. Now, one last thing I want to look into before we close the video is these different monitor options that are available. It can give you idea of what kind of sessions are up, right? What kind of websites, applications. Last but not the least, also, we have some sort of logs available to us. Now, we haven't done much here at this point. Okay, it's going to give me all the logs. And again, you can, by default, you can have them enabled in the policy that you want logged. You can say all of them should get logged, or you can say none of them get logged only in a certain scenario. So you can have those logs because you don't want to have too many logs either, right? More things to cover, obviously, in the coming videos. But whole and whole, a very straightforward setup with an internet connected to a FortiGate, which has a server. You have a switch that can have some wired things connected to it, like a printer or people connected directly, and then an access point with two SSIDs, one being bridged, other being tunnel, and obviously you have the policies here to control everything the way you like it to be.
And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for joining me on this tour of the Fortinet setup. Now you've seen how I leverage FortiLink, VLANs, multiple SSIDs, and that's easy to manage NAS integration as well. Now, if you found this video useful, hit that like button. It really helps the channel. And let me know if you want more Fortinet content. And if you're not already subscribed, and ring that bell button so you don't miss any future networking tutorials. I've got more hands-on demos and configuration coming soon. So got a question or a tip? Drop it in the comments below. I love hearing what other people are saying or how they're building the networks. Until next time, stay secure and keep experimenting. Bye for now.